Hey, good evening.
Good evening. Hello,
And
Alina.
hi Cheryl, and welcome December. We're back tonight on 1st of December. Can you believe it? This is the last month in the year. Where did the time fly?
And how quickly a month already passed since the last
Exactly,
time we spoke.
since we last talk, indeed. And before we jump into the topic today, I want to say that today Romanians are celebrating the National Day. So, la mulți ani and happy National Day for us Romanians, wherever we are, for everybody who's watching, because we know that the Coaching and Mentoring Festival, it is a Romanian initiative.
Mhm.
And lots of things to celebrate. Romanians open the month, as the text was saying of the presentation,
Yeah.
with 1st of December. We actually had another holiday yesterday, which was St. Andrew for us.
Ah.
And yeah, we just go strong. Sinterklaas is coming, and Nicolae we're celebrating. And then, of
Christmas is
course,
happening. New
Christmas is
Year's.
happening, New Year, so there's lots of things to celebrate this month. I think only by naming them, we see the potential celebration and packing of the month, so to speak. So I think we have a lot of things, a beautiful richness into the topics that we bring tonight. So we are going to jump in. Why did we decide, Cheryl, to do this topic?
Indeed. Well, since December is a month full of festivities and celebrations, you might be having the last assignments, the last projects to finish, a lot of social gatherings happening, either at work, with family, with friends. School holiday, of course, happening the last week of the year, at least here in the Netherlands. So we thought, because of this theme, that it might be a nice reason to dive more into how sleep and well-being, being the main topic of this platform, can be related to how do we experience it during this festive month. Yeah, and how it impacts our experience during this. Yeah.
And of course, we were talking about balance because, well, at least in my definition, well being is balance. And then, of course, you talk about physical balance, mental balance, emotional balance. And
Mhm.
this month, when I think the to do list can go quite large, the question is how are we going to be, not only do? But the focus is on sleep, and I think the first topic that we wanted to talk about
Mhm.
was, well, what is the function of sleep actually? Because
Indeed.
what does it do for our body? Without going very technical, without
Thank you.
having, you know, as we said, we're trying to raise awareness.
True.
We're not doctors. So we're just sharing the knowledge that we have, and we hope that you'll find it helpful.
Indeed, and that is what we're trying to create: more awareness and more and educating, I would say, providing information so that, yes, you know what to expect in these busy times, so to say. So, first of all, I would like to mention how sleep is a neurological state, which means that sleep is, when we talk about sleep, we actually talk about the brain. And what is the function of this sleep? It is kind of twofold. One is recovery, recovery of your memory, your tissue, your organs, the energy. And the second one being that there is detoxification, both of the lymphatic system and the glymphatic system, the lymphatic system being the detoxification of your body, and the glymphatic of the brain. And diving a little bit deeper into that is when it comes to the Alzheimer's disease or illness, if you may call it. Um, Apparently, there is this built up of a certain protein that happens over time. And what research has found out, or the medical as such, is that this um, protein tends to be deactivated or cleaned up during sleep. So they have looked at um, multiple groups of people, and it's in the deep sleep that this tends to be cleaned up and hence flown away, or how you call it. So just to kind of know how important it is to be able to have such a function be there in order to clean all those things that have been built up during the day as such. Yeah.
Well, I think it will be helpful, to bring a tool that you can use, and I am going to share an article which is about the TCM, and the TCM stands for
Hmm.
traditional Chinese medicine, a
Exactly.
body clock, because this is, I would say, it's a philosophy, it's a Eastern medicine approach together
Hmm.
with Ayurveda, and it has the roots in observing how the body is functioning and responding to the environment.
Okay.
And it's been developed, I would say, during thousands of years. I think it's
Hmm.
about 3 to 4 thousand, and many tools have come to it, and there is this Chinese body clock, so to speak, that
Correct. Yeah.
we're going to refer, and probably that will be given a little bit more clarity. And I'm going to share in the comments an article that maybe people might find it useful. I
Interesting to
find it
read.
for sure very insightful. And in the Chinese body clock, what it states, it goes over a period of 24 hours.
Correct. Yeah.
But each organ actually corresponds a 2 hour interval.
Hmm.
It starts with the lung time, and this is actually in the morning between 3 and 5 a.m. And it is very interesting that what it is considered, it is that the highest energy level, the function gets associated for each organ, so let's say between 3 and 5 in the lung period, it is where there are certain processes that are happening with breathing,
Of
and
course.
clearing the air, and then it goes like that. And I was looking how can we and we will share afterwards. There is an image that I wanted to show, and let me share it maybe to have it on the screen, because I think we can talk practically about what is the purpose of sleep. And as you can see here, it starts between 3 and 5 a.m. This is how this clock begins, technically.
Hmm.
And as you can see, it also mentioned the sleep. So actually, the sleep, you see, it's kind of starting here between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. And it's saying that the gallbladder, it's the time of this organ, because it is about cellular repair and
Correct.
also
Yeah.
about the blood creation. So this starts at the rather at the beginning of the night, so to speak.
Hmm.
Then here in between 1 and 3 a.m., it is the liver function, because liver is the one that is filtering all the blood. It's exactly what you are mentioning. So the blood is being created, but it is this like a cleanup, it
But
goes through the liver.
does this mention that basically these organs during this time interval is the most active, basically.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the most active, and the way we should look at this, it is that the opposite, it's actually the least active. So,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, if you look here in between 1 and 3 a.m., liver is the most active,
Yeah.
and then the opposite for it is the small intestine. And it makes sense because overnight there isn't necessarily whatever it has been digested, it's actually moving towards the in the process of excretion and being,
Yeah.
so it is that the small intestine actually it's less busy unless
Yeah.
we
Indeed.
we're going to talk about when to eat and when not to eat. But I thought that that's such a nice representation. So it starts here, and each of the organs, and actually the organs, they're kind of organized like looking at the torso. And
Mm-hmm.
because I was reading about the triple burner, but actually it is considered the torso, and it is in three parts. So you have from the clavicula to the solar plexus here, and here in this area you have the heart and the lungs and the pericardium, and then the second one, the middle, it is from the solar plexus to the navel. And here you have everything that is about digestion. So you have the stomach
Correct.
and the
Yeah.
gallbladder and the intestine and the spleen. And after that, the third one is actually from the navel to the pubic bone. And there it's actually the one with the a little bit with the elimination. So you have the kidney, and I think it's the large intestine. Yes. And
Wow.
the liver. Yes. So it's
Very interesting how they all work. Yeah.
indeed. And of course, why is this important and why did we wanted to bring it up
Yeah.
here? Because it's actually show that it is like 12 hours, the body is busy with optimizing energy, for the day so you can be productive and there is digestion and food. And then you have about 12 hours in which you have a process of regeneration. As you said, it is about
Mhm.
regeneration, organizing information, clearing, generating.
Repairing. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. But it's also what I find so interesting is how each organ has its own circadian clock, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this part in our brain that has which is considered the master clock, and that can communicate with everything else. But interestingly enough, when you look at which triggers what, it's actually first light of the morning or of the day that resets your brain clock. But
Mm-hmm.
first bite that you eat in the morning that resets your organ clocks. So they apparently don't even need to get that signal as such, that we need to start. But on the other hand, when you, for example, have a jet lag, or um, everybody knows when you, for example, need to catch a flight and you're leaving the home 2 hours earlier than you would normally have your breakfast. Everybody would think, breakfast being the most important meal to start with of the day, to have that breakfast way earlier. Well, if you look at the organs and how they indeed work in this whole routine, so to say, when they are getting food to digest at a time that it's not supposed to be coming in, can you imagine how indeed uh, it gets completely confused, because the liver, the gut, all the organs involved with this process that are at that time doing all the functions of repairing, regenerating, cleaning up, etc., need to choose, shall I continue with the original work or shall I start working on this food that's coming in. So, what does it normally do in these cases? It stops the work that it was doing and goes to start with the digesting. Yeah. But what you see is that all the processes are not ready yet. And interesting, I'm just thinking of that is if you were to eat earlier than normal, you're usually not that hungry because all the organs are kind of getting there to get prepared for you to get food to intake. And yeah, all the juices, all the things are just not, yeah,
Yeah,
prepared yet.
generated. They're just not
Exactly.
generated yet. And of
Yeah,
course, the purpose of today was not indeed to discuss and go in depth, neither in the traditional Chinese medicine, all this stuff.
exactly.
This is more like a resource.
True.
And because we said that we are bringing awareness,
Indeed.
and because we are in the Western culture, where we live in Netherlands, but okay, Romania, so we're in Europe, it's not so common to look at these things. And I
No.
find it so insightful to have another perspective next to the one
The
brought by
tradition, the Western one. Yeah,
exactly, by the Western medicine when looking at these things, because actually the traditional Chinese medicine, it's very much about prevention, and it's about having the knowledge to work with your body. And
exactly.
what I like always is that apparently in the past the Chinese doctors were paid only when the client was, or the patient was, healthy,
Mm.
because then they would, yeah, they would have done their job very, very well, because the purpose was not to use the doctor when they were sick, but they were very busy, to teach the
Fantastic.
person, yeah, or how to be healthy, not how to mend them when they were sick.
That would be an interesting thing to integrate here, I must say.
Yeah, also with the sleep, yes.
Yes,
So
indeed.
so
But funny
we
enough,
yeah.
if I may make that step to how is it related then to the holidays? But one thing that you can, or that we all experience, is when you are spending later gatherings together, Christmas together, which tends to maybe also be a bit later than you are used to. It could be that indeed because of looking at how the organs work and in which timing, that if you, for example, then eat a bit later, drink a bit later, that you can feel more discomfort because of that. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
that might be good to mention in this. Yeah.
Well, not only that, of course, because there are parties, there can be office parties, and because this period also comes with that, and it is good to have an awareness about what you do with your body. I mean, if you everything is connected, so it isn't that sleep is happening outside of everything else, and
Nope.
it isn't only about how many hours you sleep. It is very much about what you do before, and this invites that conversation about how what do we do in the rest of the day. It's
Mm-hmm.
impacting, what are the factors, that are influencing
Indeed.
the quality and the duration of sleep.
Correct. Well, and the thing is also that there's a beautiful quote that we use a lot, which is the night mirrors the day, meaning whatever you do during the day, looking at how busy you've been, have you taken breaks regularly or not, have you exercised or not, all these, could be impacting how you experience your sleep. Yeah.
Indeed. So, Cheryl, what are some factors that can influence um, the quality of our sleep that we should keep in mind? I brought us
Definitely.
back
Well,
together.
there's a funny term called Zeitgeber, which is literally translated to a timekeeper. And the most important one that has influence on our sleep is light. Light meaning the bright light during the day. I think I mentioned earlier already how the first light of the day resets your brain clock, and that is also when the production of melatonin is being stopped, being restricted as such, because that is what that feeling of still feeling a bit sleepy, being a bit sluggish when you wake up in the morning can be like. And having that daylight pretty much as soon as you can get it after waking up, but preferably in the morning, is one of the best things you can do to have a good start of your day, which will then have a really nice impact on your sleep. A second thing is food. Like I mentioned, how the first bite that you eat changes or resets the body organ clocks as such, and it helps you to kind of start your day in a great way. And the more consistent you are with the timing that you do this, and the brain loves regularity and consistency, the easier it also becomes to, yeah, to have um, a good expectancy of sleep to be
Also
there.
predictability. We're talking about
Predictability.
predictability. Yeah. So
Exactly.
if you can influence on something, it's about having a regular schedule, right? And paying attention to all of these elements.
And indeed, a regular schedule, meaning, waking up, going to bed around the same times, and unfortunately, even also in the weekend. That is one of the main reasons why waking up on a Monday morning is one of the hardest to have. It's because in the weekend we tend to have a bit of a different schedule than we have during the week. So even though it doesn't sound that fantastic, if you do want to wake up a bit more energetic on Monday morning, that it could be one thing to follow up more consistently.
So you're mentioning about these factors, and you mention
Mhm.
about light, and you mention about food. Are there
Yeah.
other factors?
Exercise is also a great way to get yourself in a great activity. Apparently, when you exercise more, you also have a higher buildup of uh, what you call the happy hormone, dopamine, serotonin, and these two things can really last for at least 12 hours during the day. So if you happen to exercise in the morning, you will have a more lasting good feel about it throughout the day. And if you happen to exercise outside, then you would have kind of like two flies hit with one stone. Um, but of course, exercising. I mean, if you look at the whole history of mankind, we've always been on the move, and it's, I think, in the last, maybe since industrialization, that we've become less active. So one great way of counteracting that again is by really moving more. And it doesn't have to mean that you have to go to the gym or get a subscription here or there. Be walking, it can be dancing, it can be walking the stairs for some period of time, or even if you have to go to work by car, perhaps maybe parking a little bit further away so that you have a stroll that you can take prior
for
to
taking
getting
the
to the office.
stairs, right? So if you're at
And
the office or in the
yeah,
house, use the stairs more. But you can also go now, we have plenty of leaves. For us, it's autumn or it's the end of the autumn. So you can go and swap the garden or do something physical because, as you were
indeed.
saying, Cheryl, in the past, we, yeah, our ancestors or, forecomers,
Yeah,
they didn't shop for food. They would
yep,
just have and take care. They would have had to take care of the entire process. They
correct.
would that there was no electricity, so you would go to bed, because you had a candle, you had the less light, and you would wake up with the chickens, and take care
Hmm.
of them. And then if you didn't have the
Exactly.
light, you would have a fire, and you would still stay a little bit around the fire,
True.
but then you would follow the natural rhythm actually of the sun and the moon. and
Exactly.
and I think in the industrialization indeed brought a lot of development, of course, and a lot of knowledge. But it also disrupted a little bit our natural rhythm and
Yep.
the circadian rhythm sometimes, and of course nowadays with the exposure of screen time and all of it, it
Hmm.
is
Yeah,
very much that we need to pay attention. So there it is, less exercise, as you say, and actually I
yeah.
would say less movement, because we do mean movement.
True.
um, so exercise can be anything. You can also be
Yeah,
cooking, or playing with your kids or dancing with
indeed.
yeah.
Running after each other, playing hoops, jumping rope, you name it.
And
But that,
dancing is my favorite. Yes.
exactly. But you actually named something else that also makes a lot of sense with regards to light. I think it's indeed also since industrialization and the coming of artificial light, which since then has made it possible to work beyond the regular light of the sun, so to say. And that really has indeed had an impact on our sleep as such. If you compare the number of hours that we used to sleep, um, say 50 to 100 years ago, that was slightly a bit more than what you see nowadays. So it might be coming back in the tips later, but one thing that I can mention in case I forget is when you go into your evening routine, to really consider to also gradually start dimming the light so that yeah, your body and everything gets prepared for yeah, having a good night's sleep.
I think I have to say that there is something about also the light positioning. People are
Hmm.
sometimes not aware. I mean, I mostly grew up with a ceiling light, but actually, um, ever since I moved here, I noticed that here it is much more attention paid to
Yeah,
candles in the evening.
yeah,
You have a lower type of lighting, so you have lots of lamps that are sitting at your level, at the couch level, or on the floor. So the light
true.
is
Yeah,
rather lower. You do have now, of course, you can have a dimmer, but actually you have different light sources. You either
true.
have multiple things that you can turn on, and then slowly you would just making it smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays is with consumption as well, of course, but it's not about that. It's about sleep, and it's about literally preparing the body slowly to go
Yeah,
smoothly transitioning to a state of sleepiness. And
exactly.
yeah.
But similarly, as you mentioned about being at the fire for having that light, and as soon as the fire would be going out, I think everything would kick in to be able to have a good night's rest.
Right. And I think this might be a good moment to talk about something about the sleep depth, because we look with
Mhm.
holidays, we might think, yes, I'm going to make the deadlines. I have
Mhm.
3 nights in a row or an entire week in which I go to bed. People go on vacation, we've waited for this. It's the end of the year. We want to be with friends. We want to have wonderful conversations. And we tend to forget about the timing. So it might be 1, 2, 3, and then it's one
Mm-hmm.
evening, second, third.
Yeah.
And then we get out of our own schedule. And
Definitely.
yeah, we say, it doesn't matter. I'll sleep and then I'll compensate. So how is that actually working?
You mean sleeping and compensating in the sense
for
of
for the
that,
sleep depth, so it's like, I said three
because, for
three
example,
nights
during
I
these
sleep.
times you have less sleep and then you compensate it, for example, on another day. Well, technically speaking, unfortunately, whatever has not been able to, whatever has not been done during that one night with repairs, the cleansing, and so on, cannot be um, undone as such. Um, so it's not like what you mentioned, just because one night you're sleeping 4 hours, by sleeping 12 hours the next day, that you will have completely compensated for the first. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Um, but of course, if you've had a time where you've slept a bit less, or more fatigued and so on, of course, a little bit of more sleep and rest will help along the way. Yeah.
So going back to the routine, so I think it's about seeing how much you can respect your schedule, even if you're traveling or even throughout
Indeed.
the events.
Indeed.
But it is very interesting what you're saying, because if we couple the Chinese medicine body clock,
Mm-hmm.
with what you said now, it is, for instance, if you go to bed at 3 and you sleep until 11, considering
Yeah.
that each organ has its own clock.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so you were up actually while your liver might be busy, or other type of
Indeed.
organs, and then you were continuously to drink, or to or eat or stuff like that, because it is
Exactly.
social. It's social, and yeah, you do that.
Yeah.
Then your sleep might be impacted, because obviously some organs that are not supposed to be working, they're working. But if they're working, it's like, imagine in the office, right? So if the cleaning team, comes
True.
after hours, and like the entire team is there, and they're usually coming about
Yeah.
7, 8 in the evening, but then
Mm-hmm.
they found an entire office being there
Still
working.
busy
they're
there.
like they're like, so what are we
We can't
doing
do
here?
anything.
Yes, I mean, come
Exactly. Yeah.
back, come back
And, it,
tomorrow,
and
come
it's the
back the
same.
next day.
It's the
You know,
same thing with eating later than you usually do, because your whole system is so accustomed to, for example, I don't know, having dinner at 6:30 p.m. and now you're perhaps maybe having it 1 or 2 hours later. Your whole system could be thinking, kitchens shut down and all the organs that are involved with the digesting and so forth um, are already continuing whatever they should be doing. You can imagine how indeed that's then being impaired by having that intake of food happening at a way later stage. Yeah, than normal.
indeed. So
Yeah.
I wanted to put this awareness for people that indeed, um, look, of course, we're going to sacrifice something, right? Because
Yeah.
it is about the
True.
joy of being with others and being able to travel, and
Exactly.
loved ones, other beds. But before we move on into tips, because well, time flies fast, and when we're having fun, I wanted to bring this element of balance, right? So,
Indeed. And I
as
wanted to ask you a question.
yes,
Yes, because what is having or maintaining a balance for you in such a month full of festivities, celebrations.
yeah. So for me, first of all, this concept of balance, the way I look at things, it is
Mm-hmm.
simply like trying to imagine a continuum, like a or duality. I use a lot in
Mm-hmm.
yin and yang concepts, because
Mm-hmm.
I practice qigong. I like traditional Chinese medicine, and I
Yeah.
use this concept. And the yin and yang, it is night and day. The sun and the moon, being quiet, being talkative. So you understand. So it is the
Yeah.
dichotomy, the
Of the
duality, right?
yeah,
Into everything,
and
being
opposite.
active or being
Yeah.
restful, right? Being sad or being joyful. And this is how I look at balance. And for me, balance is in the middle, right? So it's like also
Mm-hmm.
mathematics, minus infinite plus infinite, and the balance is at zero, right? So when I think about balance over holidays, it's about the balance between doing and being meaning that resting, just being there without an intention of achieving something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it might be that playing games with, I'm looking at our Christmas, I'm looking
Correct.
forward to
Yeah.
have my nieces over and their boyfriends. And I said we have a very being Christmas schedule, which means playing board games around the table, watching movies, and just being together rather than doing something. And doing would be, oh, let's go and visit that or go to a museum, or so
Mm-hmm.
being more actively involved, just spending time with each other. And I want to bring these things up. Two things. One is intention. So, what is my intention for this holiday?
Exactly.
Um, and if the intention is to rest, then because I'm feeling tired, that maybe it needs, your balance might need to have a little bit more being than doing. And maybe if I'm coming after a period where I have cocooned in November, and it slowed down, maybe
Mm-hmm.
my balance needs to have a little bit more doing, being
Yeah.
out there, writing those Christmas cards and going and doing, taking a more active role, phoning everybody, like the dear ones. So this is really for me the balance, and I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
bring these aspects about intention and choice. And
Exactly. Yeah.
choice is being aware of the fact that you can say no. You can say no to party. You can say no on no, I'm not going to spread myself in between Timișoara and Bucharest. I love
Yeah.
you dearly, but maybe I'm coming for a New Year's Eve, or I'll be there with you. I'm not going to run between two
Mm-hmm.
places, or maybe having two visits in one day. That might be much. So it is also making choices, and try to kind of plan one day and also the week in such a
Mm-hmm.
way that you give yourself a time of doing but also time of being, because the day still
Mm-hmm.
has 24 hours,
Yeah.
even if it's joyful and exciting and full of, and our body still is the same. The organs, I said, no, there isn't like, the organs or our system is like, yay, you're now on Christmas time, we make a day of 48 hours. No, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it is about having the choices. So how is it for you with balance over holidays?
Mm, I must say, I have done it differently in the past than I would do it now. I would say the intention is indeed more there. What do I want to get out of it? What gives me energy? Um, you know, you will be spending more time with your family, with your friends than maybe any other time of the year. How do I want to be then? Um, and making sure, at least for myself, because of course I can't talk for others, but making sure that I still manage to give myself that time and energy, in addition to my family, my loved ones, and whether it's in doing things, whether it's in being, um, yeah. So, but it's always kind of like weighing out. And I guess one major thing is really listening to our bodies, right? And to what feels right. Because sometimes we can think that we can do all these things and manage all these appointments or visits. But how does it feel? Does it feel overwhelming? Does it feel full of energy? just really, yeah, listen to that. I can say. And something else that I would like to add, I can imagine it's also very different for if you're, for example, an introvert or an extrovert, both needing very different things. Hence, also perhaps having a completely different balance. Yeah, so really looking at yourself and what you need, what your family needs, and enjoy. You know, how we don't know how long we have on this earth, and I do try to live um, with a kind of carpe diem way. I mean, I'm not in the sense of like, oh gosh, this might be my last day, so let's go parachuting or this
No,
or
no,
that.
I hope it's
That's
more like celebrating life and what we
exactly
have in every moment, right?
indeed. But and sometimes you can get so caught up in what needs to be done rather than what do we want to do and how do we want to be and feel. So
Yes.
I think it's also about reflections, but also taking that time, right? What do I need? What does
And
my family
slowing
need?
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
And slowing down and
yeah,
realizing that it isn't really about the gifts. Yes. I mean, even if you
exactly.
didn't manage to buy a lot of things, the gift is the gift of
Of
being
being
healthy and
together.
being together,
Yeah,
and creating those memories, but really being
indeed.
together,
But don't
whether
tell the kids about that, eh?
no, no, but even if you split, like
Yeah.
the little food that you have, also thinking about, I like what you said about the introverts, because obviously I'm an extrovert, but you're very right. And maybe for them it is because the introverts are maybe naturally more yin, more
Hmm.
with the
Yeah,
moon and
yeah,
more in a restful kind of, in a reflective kind of
yeah.
state. And
Hmm.
maybe the invitation, it is for balance, it is go outside, tell the people
Yeah,
that you love, do an extra effort,
yeah,
do spend time, do be social, if it's possible, of course, to your
indeed.
limits and everything, but balance it with a little bit of yang and fire.
Yeah.
If you're a lot of water, which is water is
Correct.
always with
Yeah,
reflection. And
indeed.
also I wanted to bring this to mind. Keep in mind that maybe Christmas or this month might have not such a positive ring or association for
For
some
everybody.
people. Some
Correct.
people might be lonely, some people might be sick, some people might have lost dear ones.
Indeed.
And while some of us might be, dropping in bed, like, you fall asleep before you got into bed. It might be that type of month,
Um,
December. There
correct.
might
Yeah.
be, yeah, there might be also people out there that actually they can't sleep
Yeah.
because of memories or because of things that are being preoccupied. And
True.
yeah, for me, December, it's a month where we come together and we pay attention to one another. We really pay attention because it isn't about the material things that we can. It's about, um, it is about celebrating who we are, what we have, and
Yeah.
mostly connecting with each other and meeting each other where we are, whether we are lower or higher. Um, but just, you know,
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
just holding hands, physically and metaphorically speaking.
But indeed, it's
And
connecting.
yes, just
Yeah.
connecting. So I find it's a month of connection, also a month of reflection, because
Yeah.
we're ending a cycle of 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? If I look back,
Yeah.
where did I start it? What did it bring me? What am I
True.
grateful for? And take the time of being. This is the time of
Yeah.
being. And of
But
course, yeah,
oh, I just wanted to add, also a time of um, accepting who we're with, how they are, um, and if I bring it back to sleep or routines, etc., and there will be times, especially this month, that it will be difficult or even more difficult to keep to that. But if you know that beforehand and you accept that it is the way it is, at least you won't have as much of the anxiety that could come with, hmm, why am I not sleeping? Or why am I having difficulties did in that? Yeah. So
Yes, and also
that
so
is
embracing what it is, embracing
exactly,
the give and take, right? So because it might be that
indeed.
it's you are going to lose some sleep and there's going to be some tiredness involved, but it is a give and take, meaning is it worth it? Yes, because if by the end of the holidays you've done all this effort, you've slept in other beds, you've done all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
you bought a lot of things, there was a marathon, but actually, at the end of your vacation, you are tired, you gain weight, you didn't receive the gifts that you actually didn't have time to talk. You've been to people, and but you
Yeah.
were so busy with different things but you actually didn't connect it. You get home and you're just tired and you feel like on an empty. You
Depleted.
haven't
Right.
replenished.
Yeah.
And I guess what this is one thing I do not wish anyone at the end of a December and also
Yeah.
going into the next year, to go with an empty battery, emotional and physical, and mental as
True.
well. And here comes the tips. So, Cheryl, I think this is a good time when we kind of
To
look on
continue on,
practical aspects about what could people do for a better, well,
yeah,
balance, but also
and
sleep.
especially during this time, well, for the ones that might be traveling, and especially traveling through different time zones, there are multiple things you can do to either prevent or to deal with a jet lag if that is something that you are experiencing. And it depends on if you are traveling west or east. So if you're traveling west, that usually means that your day is extending. Um, what that then translates back to is try to, and of course, depending on how long the flight is, and the what the actual time is on your destination. But if it's a day flight, indeed, try to stay awake during that flight. And when you get there, one tip is to actually try to stay awake until at least 9 o'clock in the evening before going to sleep. I, for example, had that when I went there last year, right after Christmas, going to my family in Suriname, which is in South America. And at the time, it had a 5-hour time difference, so it was a day flight. You arrive there late afternoon, and you start feeling sleepy so quickly because, of course, when it's 6 p.m. there in the Netherlands, it would have been 11 p.m. So that could take indeed a couple of days to get adjusted. And some things that you can also feel that with is the time when you feel hungry, the time when you feel sleepy. So the next day, it is really, I would really recommend to get as much daylight, which of course resets your brain clock, your biological clock, so that it really starts to get adjusted more quickly. When going east, it's a little bit the other way. And going east usually tends to be a night flight, which is when they say try to sleep during that time. I even heard about this tip not to eat anything on the flight because then, your whole system is kind of like as consistent as possible. And then basically, when you arrive, you can get into the rhythm of your destination. And during the flight, what you can do is, of course, use a mask, maybe use earplugs to cancel out noise
An eye
and
mask, yes. I mean,
eye
if you
mask.
put a mask over your mouth, might not do anything. So,
Only
it's
when,
an
when
eye
there's
mask.
corona.
Yes. Yes.
And when you are in the new country, or at least the country having traveled east, um, they tend to say to wear your sunglasses if there's really bright daylight, because it will take a longer time before you get sleepy, because of course it's earlier for yourself than the time is actually there, and then you slowly build that up, depending on, of course, how long you are there. So there's, you can look at food when you take that daylight. Um, and one thing that you can also do is actually, whether you go east or west, is to try and change your time of going to sleep a little bit towards the new time. Almost the same as which I mentioned with the changing of daylight savings to winter time. If you start a couple of days prior to the travel, that can really also help with adjusting more quickly.
Well, that sounds quite interesting. And other than because we talked about this is if you're flying, of course. Um,
Mhm.
but if you're traveling, like in house, so to speak,
In
locally.
house or in country, I would
Yes.
definitely recommend take your pillow with. I every time I've not brought my pillow, I've always when I did have the opportunity to bring with, I was also always a bit disappointed not having brought it with, because sleeping in a different bed, different environment, um, you always need to accustom or to get accustomed to the new place, and that can take 1 to 2 nights. So if you indeed experience that, it is indeed exactly as I mentioned just now, and just make yourself really comfy and go with the flow.
Well, and then there are things like, let's say, how to eat, what to eat. So I think
Hmm.
my tip here is um, try to leave a space. So stop with the eating at least 2-3 hours before you go to sleep, even if
Correct.
it is later, right?
Yeah.
Than usual, than your regular schedule. And what helps, it is really drinking a warm tea, a digestive tea. There's many herbs are there. Um,
Hmm.
and either a mint tea, but it's not only mint, it can be also chamomile.
Yeah.
There are combination of digestive teas,
Correct. Yeah.
because the warm tea will help the digestive process actually. And
That could be, but I would not recommend a high caffeinated tea or that has a
no,
high
the herbal.
caffeine.
Yeah.
Because, for example, green tea is a herbal tea, but is known for having the variant of caffeine in it. So I would definitely go for either decaffeinated teas or the herbal teas that you mentioned. But one thing that I would be careful of is not to drink too late into the night, because similar to with food, also drinks, you need to limit at, I would say, 1 or 2 hours before going to bed as well. I mean, a sip of water is something different, but really having such a beverage, yeah.
And we have more parties, therefore we have more alcohol. Of course,
Uh-huh.
we have adults that do not drink, but for the ones that are drinking, actually, um, it is very highly recommended to drink water. Remember to drink water. Very, very important. What water does, of course, it helps dilute a little bit, and also it helps, well, the next day,
Hmm.
because alcohol what is it? Dehydrates, right?
It dehydrates, yes.
Yes, it dehydrates. And because of that, it is very important to drink it next to the alcohol, but also next to the coffee. next to the coffee, whether you drink it in the morning or in the afternoon, remember that both alcohol and the coffee are actually dehydrating. And
Even though
yeah.
some people would say differently. Um, I'm not sure about the caffeine being dehydrating. I think a lot would say it is the case. One thing that I can mention about caffeine is actually how long it still remains in your body. So if you have one cup of coffee in the morning, it takes about 6 hours before half of the caffeine amount has has dropped, and then it takes another 6 hours before half of that half is being broken down. So can you imagine how indeed from one cup there is still some left after 12 hours? Yeah.
And also, I think it is because we talked about taking the pillow. So we talked about jet lag, and we talked
Yeah.
about taking your pillow. We talked about eating, if it's possible, live to 3 hours. We
Hmm.
might be good to put the movement there as well, because it
Oh,
is very
definitely.
helpful to go for a walk, even if it's at 10 at night, you have a late dinner or anything, half an hour of just moving around the block, it will do you a lot of good, also preparing you for the sleep, also helping the digestion, which is a little bit later than usual.
Indeed. Yeah.
Always very helpful. And then when you go actually into sleeping, for the positions, I think it is always recommended, especially if you have a heavier dinner. It is recommended to sleep on the left side, not on the right side, because of the form of the stomach.
Hmm.
That will reduce the chances of a reflux, and it will
Yeah.
keep the content of the stomach and everything into the position, because remember, the stomach has that shape, like a
Exactly.
V.
Even though some people would also think, I'm such a stomach sleeper, I'm such a back sleeper. Um, all of the positions have their pros and cons, but what research does show is that indeed sleeping on your side and then sleeping even on your left is considered the most healthy position and the least um, what's it called again, burdening for your body as such. The only thing it would not be helpful with is wrinkles, but that's for another time.
Well, I realized that we are
Yeah,
1 hour into the conversation,
indeed.
and
Yeah,
I think we covered quite a lot.
we
And
did.
yeah, let's see.
Have we
Carol,
forgotten
would you
anything?
like to give us a little bit of a summary? What did we cover today?
So, what did we cover today? Well, we delved a little bit into the function of sleep. That sleep is a neurological state. Um, the two functions being the detoxifying, the um,
Recovering.
recovering. Thank you for helping me with that. We then dove into the awareness regarding the Zeitgebers, the factors that impact sleep. We went into the organ
Which
clock,
are, let me put them,
the
which are
Zeitgeber time,
light, light,
light,
food,
exercise,
temperature,
and temperature.
exercise, and temperature. Yes.
Correct. So those were indeed the factors impacting sleep. We delved into each organ having its own body clock. What
And
else did we
using
talk
this
about?
as a tool, and I think we
Yeah.
shared an article there that remains, of course it wasn't ours, but we find it quite an inspiring resource. And we also, I'm going to share an image, but there are images. If you look for the TCM body
Mhm.
clock, there's images that are showing you what we've shown here. And after that, we talked a little bit about the balance and what
And
balance
reflections,
is.
indeed, what
Yes.
balances the both of us, and indeed how to maintain it. and to regularly check with ourselves, right? What that looks like and what the intent is that you want to have during these times.
Yeah, so the intention and the choice, the fact that we have a choice at any given moment is just being aware of what are the options to choose from,
Hmm.
and also, of course, the consequences.
Yeah.
And you said it very well, accepting what it is, but also putting ourselves in that balance. So taking care of our needs as well, not only for the
Hmm.
others. It is
Yeah.
very tempting, but no, so that at the end of the month of celebration we actually come also recharged and not frustrated, tired, and in need of another
Perhaps a bit
vacation.
heavier, but that doesn't matter.
Yes. And then last but not least, we offered some practical tips,
Yeah.
which were about if you're traveling, if you're flying, so in the distance, but also about sleeping and eating, also a little bit about exercising and sleep positions. And yeah, I think it's been an entire journey.
Definitely. Yeah. But I also want to reiterate, having a consistent schedule, waking up, sleeping, that is one of the easiest and best ways or things to do, um, to have the best chance of having a good night's sleep.
Right. So even if you go away for 3 days or a week,
Yep.
remember that even if you need to recreate a new routine, you will be in a new place
Hmm.
physically with maybe a different temperature or different sleeping
Correct.
conditions. Do take a sleeping mask with you. Try to take some earplugs if you know that you are sensitive to the noise. So try to control what you can, take ownership of your own sleep.
Yeah.
And after that, if possible, talk about your needs. So first of all, figure out what do you need. So if you need to be in bed and you know that you need 7 hours to function, then try to talk to everybody, family, the place where you're visiting, and say, yeah, it's fine that we're going to want to bed, but just know that 7 hours I'm off. And manage expectation. You can always reach out, you can always negotiate, take care of that. And do I mean offer yourself kindness, compassion, and space, the same as you offer for all your loved ones. You wouldn't be upset with them if they would say, I'm tired and I'm going to go for 1 hour of sleep. And also try to offer a good role modeling by showing to the people around you that if you are tired, it is
Yep.
okay to talk about that and say, let's call it the night, or I'm now going to bed,
Hmm.
and maybe let's start tomorrow at 5. Let's go to sleep at 10 and
True.
let's start partying at 5 if it's
Very
possible.
true. But also another thing, if you take care of yourself, you also will be able to take care of your family and your loved ones in a much more loving, energetic way, or however you want it. Yeah. So
Also, you'll be able to be more present and actually to
yeah,
enjoy, because I like this word.
indeed,
It's written enjoy, but it's actually enjoy, being in joy and enjoying the presence
correct.
of and
Yeah.
yourself. And yeah, so I think that's what we wish for you, to
To
be
have during
intentional.
these coming times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and be intentional about your sleep, be intentional with your choices. Figure out for yourself first what you want, and then have the courage to say to everybody with compassion,
This
what
is
your
what I
needs.
need. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I need, indeed, lovingly. And for us, well, it is December, and
Yeah.
so we're going to find ourselves in conversation back in January. So we're going to
Indeed.
begin the year together. We're hoping that you can join on the 5th of January. And I think the topic will be New Year's resolution related to sleep.
Woohoo. So, hope you can join us then again and hope that you enjoyed our conversation today. And wishing you all lovely and festive holidays to come.
Have a wonderful time, a bright December, and may you count your blessings, and may you receive everything that you need to be recharged and start the new year with a smile. And we
Definitely.
thank you very much for your attention today. And if you see us a little bit later and if you have questions, by all means, do address it. We will come back to you. And yes, thank you and happy holiday season wherever you are.
Okay. Definitely. Have a good evening, everyone.
A good evening to all.